lovely and darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy. Today I am reviewing Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I listened to the audiobook for this, which is narrated by Avi Roque. Cemetery Boys is a young adult fantasy story focusing on a trans queer Latinx boy who has magical powers. Our main character in this is Yadriel, and he has known since he was little that he was a boy, and his family is trying to be supportive and understand that, but there are still times when they mess up and dead name him or misgender him. He's also part of a larger community, like their church group, this brujo community that he's a part of. And they are also struggling with what to do with Yadriel. So their society is very much based on magical powers that they have, and the women in this community, the brujo, the female witches, have one set of powers which are healing and like focused on the living, whereas the men have this other set of powers, they're brujos, and they have powers associated with the dead and helping spirits. And so there is this whole thing around their quinces or quinceaneras, where they get initiated into the community and they take on their full powers. But Yadriel has been denied that because he's trans, and his family and the community aren't even sure it's going to work, that he'll be able to get powers. So rather than setting him up for disappointment, I guess, they're not letting him go through the quinces at all, which is a problem when he's 16 and still doesn't feel like he's part of the community. So he and his best friend Maritza go behind everybody's back and do the rites, and he does actually have powers. So Lady Death, their goddess, who gives them the power to heal and help spirits, thinks that he's a guy, and so he feels validated by that. But he's also afraid to tell his family that he has the powers, so we see him doing a lot of sneaking around. So that's a big part of this book, is his identity, although it's not necessarily a trans book, but that definitely plays into this. We also see similarities between how he feels being trans and queer versus how he feels about having the magic, both within the brujo community, but also he goes to a normal high school in LA. And so he's dealing with other kids who aren't part of this brujo community, who don't understand his background, who don't understand the magic. He doesn't talk about it at all. Like, they don't know that he has magic, but they don't understand the fact that he's part of this distinct separate religion. So he's pretty much a loner with just him and his cousin. Maritza is his cousin. Most of the story is focusing on Yadriel coming into his powers, dealing with them, but then there's also this whole mystery around missing kids. So one of the first things Yadriel does, is summon a spirit. He's trying to summon his cousin who died, but he ends up bringing back one of his classmates who died on the same night. So Julian is from Yadriel's school, but they didn't know each other. Like, they knew of each other, but like didn't actually hang out or work together. So they're thrown together in the afterlife, and they kind of annoy each other at first. But eventually the two of them form this really cute friendship / relationship romance, which I adore. And then there's the mystery about how these two boys, Miguel and Julian, both died. And a lot of other crazy things are happening that I don't want to spoil, but for sure it's an exciting fantasy story. So if you love magic and witches, definitely check out this book. It also explores a lot of the Hispanic Latinx culture. In particular, we're dealing with the brujo community, but also Julian comes from a Hispanic community, and so they're talking about their different backgrounds and their different experiences, even though they have similar backgrounds to like the rest of the world, but within the Hispanic Latinx communities, they're very distinct. The brujo community also has a lot of people who have come from other cultures too. So like Julian, so like Yadriel's parents, I think, are from Mexico and Cuba, possibly. Like, so you've got two different takes there, and like Julian's family comes from another country, and so we have brujos who are from all over Latin America and Mexico and just like those countries. So they each have like distinct backgrounds. So Yadriel is a great character. He's great to like emotionally connect with. There's a lot of like parts of the trans experience explored in this. Also, stuff like he has to wear a binder so that he presents male. He gets dead named and misgendered all the time, and he has very realistic reactions to that. This book also talks about dead naming him without actually presenting his dead name, which is cool. He has family members and different members of the community who have different relationships and viewpoints on his being trans. So, like, his dad is struggling with it and trying to understand him and very much still loves him, but also isn't sure what to do with him. Like, his dad is the leader of this brujo community, and so he's got this his dad has this responsibility both to his family, and he loves Yadriel, but he also has a responsibility to the brujo community, and he isn't quite sure how those two reconcile. His grandmother talks about how she loves him, but also she dead names him a few times and talks about how she'll always see him as like a little girl, which is, incredibly heartbreaking. There are, like, his brother seems completely indifferent to the whole transgender thing, and then he has one uncle and his cousin Maritza who are both, like, fully on board with him being trans and, like, accepting him and trying to understand what they should be doing to make him feel the most comfortable, which is awesome. But you get to see, like, that whole spectrum of how people react to it. There's lots about the Hispanic community. We're mostly focusing on the Brujex. So the Brujex community worship Lady Death. So there's a whole bit in here around Dia de la Muertes, the Day of the Dead, becoming a huge part of their religion, and having the Brujex who have passed on get to come back on those days. Yadriel's mother has died, and so he is super excited that he gets to see his mom again, as well as, like, his grandfather and other relatives and friends from the community. He'll get to see them all. So it was cool to have, like, Day of the Dead be such a huge part of this. The magic they have also has a lot to do with animal sacrifice, and, like, it's blood magic. So that was also an interesting magic system. But also, like, Maritza is vegan. So even though she can do the magic, she chooses not to because it would harm an animal. So she might be able to save somebody else, but at the expense of another creature's life or well-being, and so she's not okay with that. So we see her kind of brushing it off, and she's like, yeah, I'm vegan, whatever, I'm not going to do the magic. But then she also has this thing where her dad makes these knives that the guys use for the spirits, and so she wants to learn how to do that and to forge weapons. And so she has her own place in the community that she sees, but it's not necessarily a spot that would be normally allotted to somebody of her gender. Normally guys would make the knives for other guys. So a lot of discussion about gender roles within the Latinx community and within the brujo community. Brujex community. I also love the ghost part of this. Julian is passed on, and him hanging out with both Maritza and Yadriel, because they're part of the Brujex community, can see spirits, so they can see him and interact with him and talk with him. And, like, when the three of them together, it's mostly normal, except for the fact that Julian doesn't have a body. But then they also start, like, Julian is obsessive about wanting to check up on his family, his friends, and so he can, like, see them, but they don't have no clue that Julian's there. They don't even know that he's dead for sure. So there was also fun stuff happening around the ghost spirit theme in here, which I enjoyed. There's just so many awesome parts of the story. I really loved it. So there's also a lot of fun, cute moments too. Just hanging out, Julian talking about his favorite foods. There's these special treats, the special food that they make for the spirits for the Day of the Dead that Julian can eat. Just, like, seeing him just be so excited that he finally gets to eat something because he can't eat normal food. There's a lot of discussion of loss in here, both from the Brujex community dealing with spirits and death, but also Julian's father has died. And so he's also grieving, and he's seeing the reaction, like the effects of losing him that his family and friends are experiencing. Like, his older brother was the one taking care of him, so his older brother is missing him, his friends are missing him, so we see grief that way also. So much happened in this book, and I really love it. I love the whole mystery part too. Like, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it is so good. And as somebody who loves fantasy, it's a fun mystery. Lots of fun magic. I enjoyed that part. A little bit of action at the end. So I highly recommend Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. You guys should go check it out. It's definitely like a 4 or 5 star. Not exactly sure where I fall, but like highly recommend this. So yeah, Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.